The Vietnam War and the push for US involvement was a result of the Gulf of Tonkin incident. A lie. The Iraq War famously is a result of lies. Wars in Somalia are a result of lies. The Second World War and the German invasion of Poland was a result of carefully constructed lies. That is war by media. Let us ask ourselves, of the complicit media, which is the majority of the mainstream press, what is the average death count attributed to each journalist?
Anton Karasyn, the third man, as if you don't know that by now. And at the very top, that was Julian Assange from 2010 at an anti-war rally. I'm Randy Credico. This is Randy Credico live on the fly on 99.5 FM in New York City, WBAI.org. And we are continuing our long-term series, Assange Countdown to Freedom, which started right here at the station with Julian Assange way back in April of 2017. So it's been a bad week, folks. I mean, it has been a bad week because a lot of people were expecting that Mr. Assange would receive a pardon by Trump. And we were waiting and waiting all through last Tuesday for a pardon. It didn't happen. One of those disappointed, I'm sure, is Mr. Assange's father, John Shipton, who I met at Belmarsh almost a year ago during the first phase of the trial, extradition trial. John joins us now somewhere in the Big Apple. John, how are you?
Well, thank you. Well, thank you.
Were you expecting a pardon for Julian on Tuesday, the day before the inauguration?
Oh, well, you know, we did everything we could to achieve it and brought the matter to Donald Trump's notice, but it seems as though he didn't want to go down in history as the president who fought for free speech. In fact, he was seems to be remembered for the opposite.
Right. I mean, you would think that at least, you know, he would give him a pardon or a commutation, something that didn't come. And so many of us were really banking on that. I wasn't exactly banking on it. I was prepared for the worst. And so I guess he will go down in history as a person that doesn't support free speech. Now he is the one that initiated the charges under William Barr and the Justice Department that the Obama administration with Biden decided not to initiate. So you take a look at that. He's been in jail for 2 years, prison, only because his Justice Department has started something that Biden's administration, which is Obama administration, did not want to do. What are your reflections on that about how Trump has treated?
Well, I don't know, you know, what's in it for Trump to embarrass the First Amendment. Again, continuing on with that, there is considerable debate within the Department of Justice amongst the prosecutors as to not go ahead with this prosecution. And two prosecutors in the Department of Justice, senior positions, made their objections publicly known. It's reported in the Washington Post. So it's really not understandable as to why Trump would burden his administration with yet another error.
the decision not to extradite him by Judge Beretzer in at the Old Bailey, not to extradite, was met with an appeal this last Friday. Have you seen that appeal? I mean, are you aware of?
Yeah, the appeal was lodged last Friday, and they've got about 10 days after that to fulfill the requirements of the appeal. So that would be about another week from now that the Department of Justice has to fulfill the grounds of the appeal.
So we just know there's an appeal, but we don't know right yet what the grounds for the appeal are.
No, we don't know what grounds they're making. And we upon arrival in the United States, we wrote to President-elect Biden for a meeting, which he declined or didn't take up the request. A bit disappointing. However, Biden knows now the circumstances of Julian, and over the next couple of weeks, it's easy and simple for the new administration to discontinue the charges.
Yes, and I hope so. And I think a lot of that depends on the kind of movement we get out there in the press and people who are organizing around the world to showcase this persecution, this long-term persecution, this total travesty of justice. I think it's really vital that people continue. Here in New York City, there's the New York City Free Assange, that there was rumors that you were in town. I never verified that you were in town, but there were rumors, and they thought that you might be in town. What's your message to people that have been out there, demonstrating in front of the UK consulate and here and in Washington, D.C., and around the world in general, those who have been mobilizing? You think this has been a positive outcome effect?
Randy, we ride on the shoulders of a worldwide movement. Gabrielle and I, Julian's brother, are here in New York at the fulfillment of that wave of support which has gone around the world. The opportunity here now is very strong because the Biden administration is its new days, and it can simply rectify those things that are errors of the Trump administration. So it's quite fortuitous that we go on your show as the beginning of the the US in New York, the beginning of our activity here to bring notice to those in the human rights movement, in the civil rights movement, and in the First Amendment movement, that the circumstances are ripened now for the charges against Julian to be simply discontinued.
Well, you and I have spoken before about the First Amendment. Something that's unique about the United States is that the Bill of Rights and the First Amendment, something that we don't see with the Official Secrecies Act in the UK. Tell us what your opinion, what your thoughts about the First Amendment, how sacred it is, and how inviolate it is, and why Julian should be protected by it.
Well, what we outside of the United States admire of the culture of the United States is its Constitution, its Bill of Rights, Bill of Human Rights, and its First Amendment. These are the things that every country attempts in one way or another to emulate. Of course, the pressure of time and events causes the tide of censorship to advance and fall away. All our life, you and I have fought against censorship, and that we have relied upon the First Amendment to support the argument, and we've relied upon the Bill of Rights in the United States to support our arguments that our governments emulate the United States' Constitution. Very important worldwide, really.
Well, you must not be very, very happy. That's not the term, but disappointed in the way the British government has not been the way they've operated here. All of the machinations with the Swedish government and coming up with the smear job on Julian, and not right now. You would think the UK would show that they are different than a third world country and support the free speech of Julian Assange.
Yeah,
I find it very disappointing when I was there that they were so callous.
Yes, they've displayed nothing but a plague of malice for 11 years. However, well, moving towards 11 years, sorry, they've delivered a plague of malice upon Julian Assange for the reasons of state. It's only the Crown Prosecuting Service and the Colonial and Foreign Office which pursued Julian. Other institutions in the United Kingdom are supportive of Julian. So, for example, the current Prime Minister doesn't like the extradition and gives no support in Parliament to the extradition of Julian Assange from the United Kingdom to the United States. So that is heartening.
So, all right. So at this point, we are in a no man's land. We don't know what is going to happen. She doesn't, the judge says, all right, I can't send them over there because of the conditions of the US prisons. But then at the same time, ironically, puts them back into Balmorse, and those prison conditions aren't much better, if at all, than the average US prison.
Yeah, it's somewhat, malicious comedy for the Judge Vanessa Baraitser to come and say, oh, well, you're free to go, but I'm sorry, you can't go, and keep Julian in a maximum security prison Julian's, as you know, an intellectual, a publisher, a journalist, a writer, and keeping Julian in a prison that's specifically designed and administered for terrorists is just another malicious instrument of the United Kingdom's Crown Prosecuting Service.
Yes, we are talking with John Shipton, the father of Julian Assange. This is Randy Credico live on the fly on 99.5 FM in New York City. John Shipton has been out there for his son relentlessly. I must tell you how much I admire you have been unflappable, indefatigable, and phlegmatic through this entire ordeal. How do you do it?
Oh, well, Andy, if we can revert back to what we mentioned of the support worldwide, that's what keeps us going, is that the support for Julian and for the ability of people to be able to converse freely amongst each other. That is free speech. The support is magnificent, and that keeps you going. As you know, a little bit of warmth from the crowd keeps you going.
Right. As a performer, I can tell you it's always nice to have an audience that likes you, and he does have an adoring audience. I've never seen anything like it. The growing support for your son, and he deserves it. I mean, the fact is, he is a great journalist. He's one, as John Pilger has said, has shamed mainstream media because of what he's done over the years. And he continued to do, even when he was inside the embassy. So let's say his achievements. You must be proud of your son.
Yes, of course. But you know that you keep in the background all the time. You know, what we work on is the foreground. How do we get Julian out of the jail, and how do we marshal in a pointed attack all of the support worldwide? Now, in Germany, 29 cities had vigils for Julian each week prior to COVID. There's a cross-party group in the German public. There's a cross-party German Bundestag, their parliament. There's a cross-party group in the Australian Parliament. There's a cross-party group formed in the United Kingdom Parliament. So there's also the Council of Europe, the chair of humanities, the chair of the Human Rights Commission in the Council of Europe. There's the United Nations Rapporteur. There's the United Nations Working Group on Arbitrary Detention. The support is institutional and worldwide. For the Biden administration to begin its administration in a diplomatic mode after the assaults on diplomacy of the Trump administration and Mike Pompeo, to begin in a diplomatic mode, all of the opportunities are there if they wish to speak to Europe in a diplomatic mode. Then Europe doesn't like, is not happy with, is dissatisfied with this extradition of a publisher and a journalist and publication to the United States. They're dissatisfied.
Yes, it is unprecedented. You didn't even mention Reporters Without Borders, Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch. I mean, every NGO of any significance has come out in support of Julian Assange and his freedom. What kind of precedent would it set, do you think, not only in the US, but internationally, if in fact the US does proceed and brings them back and tries them and puts them in jail? What would that foretell?
Well, you know, it foretell a circumstance where the Secret Services had gained control of the government and it was no longer in the hands of Congress. That's what it would be. Because the Secret Services are those institutions in society that use these laws to their advantage. They want to do everything in the dark. Well, it's simply not possible. Their actions and their policies have to be examined closely, like every other institution of government.
It would be very ominous, I think.
Very shocking. James Goodall, who was the lawyer for the New York Times back in the Pentagon Papers day, he's still bright and well, very sharp. He says that the current prosecution of Julian Assange under the Espionage Act is outrageous.
Yes.
It's probably disgraceful.
Right. So in the meantime, Julian Assange, who I've had the pleasure of meeting, and like you, he's got a good sense of humor. He's got a good heart. He's engaging. He's an intellectual, and really enjoyable to be around. I mean, everyone has a friend there. Everyone feels like he is their friend because he is that good of an individual. How is he holding up? I mean, I know you haven't been there in the last month or two, but how do you feel he's holding up under the pressure that he has undergone the last 2 years in particular?
Oh, well, his health is dire, you know, and the circumstances are deleterious. That's the United Nations Rapporteur on torture concluded that the end result of the circumstances of Julian's incarceration and psychological torture are death.
Right, right. He was on a couple of weeks ago, Nils Melzer, and he's been on a few times, but he has really been, you know, really a godsend, I think, because when he came out, there was a little lull. And when he came out and exposed the kind of violence that has been done psychologically and physically on Julian, I think it really galvanized a lot of people that were sitting on the sideline. What is your thoughts about that?
Yeah, and Nils is a great champion, as you are a great champion.
Right. Well, he's. I know he's friends with you, with yours, and your son, Gabriel. Both of you have been outstanding in your efforts to coming over here and going through it for a couple of weeks. You're not leaving with a heavy heart. You're just as emboldened and as enlivened and as optimistic as you were before you arrived. Can
Yes,
I conclude?
Well, what can you do? I mean, the support here has been tremendous. Wherever we go, people make their resources and their hospitality available to us and give us avenues to explore so that we can bring notice of this prosecution to the new administration. That's, I mean, you know, there's no need to leave with a heavy heart because the momentum here has begun and it has depth.
Right. Well, I'm going to continue. We at WBAI will continue supporting Julian and doing as many shows as possible. You got a lot of support out there in this city and in this country, in DC, Chicago, Los Angeles, San Francisco. There are vigils and rallies popping up everywhere, as there are all over the world, you know, whether it be Rome, whether it be Auckland, in Berlin. I mean, it's just amazing that Vienna, there is support everywhere. I wish I could mention every single one, but I'd be here for another week. What final thoughts or a final message to those who are listening, the supporters of Julian Assange, just to kind of wrap it up and give us your thoughts.
Well, you know, join us in freeing Julian, you know, bringing him home to his family, his kids, and you will benefit yourself in ensuring that your own civil rights are maintained. So there's no downside in supporting Julian Assange.
Right.
It's just somehow magically benefits all of us.
Well, certainly we don't want this. This is a free speech radio station. Julian has been on this station many times here at WBAI 99.5 FM in New York City. Please support the station, and we will continue supporting Julian Assange. It really is fundamental. Get out there, find out, folks, where the rallies are. There's NYC Free Assange. Look them up and participate, get involved, and let's make this happen. Let's support the ending of the persecution of one of the great journalists of the last century, Julian Assange. Thank you very much to you, Mr. Shipton, and to your son. Thank you for coming here to the U.S. You're always welcome. We hope to see you soon, and let's get this thing done. Once again.
Thank you.
All right. Well, that's it, folks. We'll see you next week, same time here on WBAI 99.5 FM in New York City. I'm Randy Credico for Live on the Fly.
When I was a young man, I carried me pack, and I lived the free life of the rover. From the Murray's green basin to the dusty outback, I waltzed my Matilda all over. Then in 1915 the country said, son, it's time to stop rambling, there's work to be done. And they gave me a tin hat and they gave me a gun, and they sent me away to the wall. And the band played Waltzing Matilda as our ship pulled away from the quay. Amidst all the cheers, the flag waving and tears, we sailed off to Gallipoli.